Okay. It is 6 p.m. Is it? No clock. And I call to order the city council meeting, Sumner City Council meeting of June 21st, 2022. The city is conducting this public meeting using a hybrid model. The public is welcome to attend tonight's meeting in person at the Sumner City Council chambers or virtually by using the Zoom platform. Tonight's meeting is also being live streamed through YouTube. Access links and additional information can be located on the city's website and on the meeting agenda. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sorry.
Just like Kathy. All right. We have no invocation tonight. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Potato,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Cole,
Here.
Hochstetter,
Here.
Newman. Councilmember Newman,
One on the bottom, but I don't know if that's her.
There it is, sir.
thank you. Reed,
Here.
Stewart.
Here.
Good. All right, tonight we have a proposed amended agenda under new business. Items C and D have been switched as reflected on your agenda. Councilmember Newman, would you like to make a motion to accept the amended agenda?
Yes, I move that we accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, unanimous. So we move on to consent agenda. Will the clerk please read the consent agenda?
Item number one, approval of the checks and electronic payments in the amount of $1,151,742.71. Item two, resolution number 1630, setting public hearing for Houston Road annexation. Item number three, 24th Street utility relocation, construction management services. Item four, 24th Street utility relocation, construction contract award. Item five, Sumner Texaco Heritage Parks remediation consultant services agreement. Item six, resolution number 1626, updated WashDOT right-of-way procedures. Item seven, purchase and sale agreement, partial acquisition of 1313 Main Street, day and night grocery for Main and Wood intersection project. Item number eight, resolution number 1628, rejecting all bids for CIP 21-08, Salmon Creek Channel realignment. Item nine, resolution number 1627, interlocal agreement with WashDOT for gateway funding. And item 10, approval of the council meeting from the regular council meeting, approval of council meeting minutes, excuse me, that is a typo, from the regular council meeting of June 6th, 2022, and the study session of June 13th, 2022.
Thank you. Will Deputy Mayor Hochstetter please make a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I make the motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember Stewart. Would anybody wish to move anything on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. All right, we move on to our public hearing. Ordinance number 2821, expanding multifamily tax exemption residential target areas. And I will open the public hearing and call on Ryan Windisch.
Thank you, Mayor Hayden, and good evening, City Council. I'm Ryan Windisch, the Community Development Director, and the ordinance before you tonight, 2821, would expand the multifamily tax exemption residential target areas for the city of Sumner. We already have one target area. That's in the town center plan area, roughly a half a mile walk from our train station in our historic downtown area. And this action is a follow-up to the adoption of a housing action plan by the City Council in 2021. And the housing action plan really took a close look at what could the council do to incentivize and promote affordable housing in the city of Sumner. It also found that as high as 37% of folks that are renting housing in Sumner are paying more than 30% of their income towards housing. So that's considered overburdened. And so the tools in the toolbox include this expansion of a multifamily tax exemption program. And what it would do is it would allow for developers of new multifamily housing to set aside 20% of their units to be affordable for low and moderate income households. And in exchange for that, the developers would receive a tax exemption for up to 12 years on the property taxes paid on the improvements to the property. So say they purchase a piece of property for $1.5 million, they put $9 million worth of investment into it, they would still only be paying property taxes on the original, the value of the land for that 12-year period of time. And what this does, obviously, is it builds in an incentive for new housing that can be quite expensive to be affordable to those in the low and moderate income housing range. And so the council spent several study sessions discussing this at length, kind of weighing the pros and cons, and came down to what felt like a consensus on the expansion of this area into the East Sumner neighborhood area. And I'll share my screen and show a map of that area if I could. Are you able to see a air photo with a red square on it? Is that showing up? Hopefully. So this area is in our East Sumner neighborhood plan area. It also encircles really the YMCA that opened about 6 years ago. And there are a number of multifamily developments that are proposed in this location, probably around, if they all build out according to plan, probably around 500 new housing units. So you can imagine if each one of these developments were to take advantage of the multifamily tax exemption, you could see 100 affordable housing units in this area. So definitely could provide for some incentives for affordable housing in the East Sumner location. So that is in a nutshell the proposal and the reason we're here for the hearing tonight, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ryan. So do we have any comments from the public? If you would like to make a comment and you are online, you can raise your hand or press *9. Seeing none. Did the clerk receive any comments on this?
Yes, excuse me. Yes, Mayor. We received 2 comments, which will be included in, which have been forwarded to council, and they would also be included with tonight's meeting minutes. Amanda Lowen and Jamie Kroll have both spoken against the item.
Thank you, Michelle. All right. So seeing no other discussion here, I will close the public hearing. and we'll move on to unfinished business. Public comment. So the public is encouraged to submit their comments to the city clerk by email before tonight's meeting. So the clerk will read any emails received into the record. Did we get any emails for tonight's?
No, Mayor, we did not.
All right. And does any public listening or watching have any comments they would like to make regarding any items not on the agenda? Use your raise your hand feature or dial *9. Seeing none. And there we go. Moving on to new business. Our first item is ordinance number 2825, stormwater source control update, Sumner Municipal Code 13.48. Councilmember Stewart, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Mayor, I move to adopt ordinance number 2825, adding sections to chapter 13.48 substantially in the form as approved by the city attorney.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'd like to second that.
You, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. We'll call on Environmental and Sustainability Specialist Robert Wright. Wow, that's a big title.
It is, and you got through it perfectly. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So the ordinance in front of you today is to add a new article to chapter 13, section 48 of our municipal code. Our city's pollution discharge permit, or MPDS permit, was reissued to us in 2019. This permit contained a new requirement for the city to create a pollution source control program. The intent of this program is to be proactive and preventative, really an inspection-based program focused on addressing pollution from existing land use and business activities, and prevent them from releasing pollutants into our stormwater system. Currently, we believe there's about 300 businesses that would fit within this inspection program and would be subject to the sections of this code that require the source control actions. Those type of actions the program would require are things such as labeling hazardous waste, storing chemicals indoors, developing a spill plan, training your employees, things along that nature. So that is the ordinance, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, do we have any questions from the dais? Deputy Mayor Hochstetter.
Yes, Mr. Wright, who makes these inspections for us?
We would be doing the inspections internally. So we do have a staff member currently who does pollution prevention, source control inspections on a voluntary basis. So we get a grant from Department of Ecology that lets us go in and help businesses do all these actions already. This code would just make those voluntary actions required of all businesses that are dealing with pollution. So it's things like auto shops, car dealerships. There's a list, and of course it'd be complaint based too. So if somebody had a complaint about a business's practices, we would then add them into our list if we felt it was warranted.
Thank you. Councilmember Cole.
Hi, so I was curious about, actually, I was just sort of a little confused. It said that there was section 1B said the regulations that would apply to all development occurring within the incorporated area of the city. So does that mean that, does it also mean that that applies to existing businesses, which I would assume? Okay.
Yes, it would. It would apply to existing businesses. So this is, and actually the following ordinance is focused on new businesses and new development, but this ordinance is specifically focused on operating businesses and their day-to-day activities.
And I see that you have an inspector that will go out to monitor all of this. And this enforcement has been in place since 2019. So have you had any have there been any citations issued for any violations of the stormwater management regulations?
There have been a few, and they're mostly related to spills. And usually we end up getting some kind of voluntary compliance out of these spills. We don't do very many. We don't do a lot of enforcement for maintenance. And until now, we haven't really had in our code to enforce this type of spill plan requirements and other source control things. But we have done spill illicit discharge is what we call it, where people are dumping pollutants into our system enforcement.
Okay, and then I have one last question. There was verbiage that mentioned land disturbing activities. I don't really know what that means, but in my head, I was thinking it means like maybe heavy trucks going through, continuously. But that may not be the case. Can you give me some examples of what land disturbing activities would be?
Yeah, those would be good examples of land disturbing activities. I think construction and stuff would be a land disturbing activity. I'd have to look and make sure I'm not getting the two ordinances confused in my head, because the second one's focused more on like land disturbance from a construction perspective. But yeah, generally what we mean by that in stormwater is developing land, and that would be the land disturbance.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none. When any member of the public like to speak on this, if you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand or press *9. Any of the public? Seeing none. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cole,
Sorry, was that Cole?
yes, it was.
Oh,
Councilmember,
yes.
Councilmember Brown,
Ms. Converse, Ms. Converse, can I interject for just a moment? If council could turn off their mics until they're called upon, that's what's causing the feedback.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Hochstetter. Yes. Potato,
Yes.
Newman.
Yes.
All right, passes unanimous. Okay, moving on to ordinance number 2826, Stormwater Manual Adoption, Sumner Municipal Code 13.48. And I think we have Mr. Wright still.
Yes, you do. You're stuck with me for one more.
Do I need to make the motion first?
Councilmember Newman, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to move that we approve ordinance 2826 and adopt the stormwater manual as part of Sumner Municipal Code 13.48.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Thank you. The motion and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. I will call on Michael Kosa. Nope, that's going to be Robbie Wright.
Thank you again, Mayor and members of the council. This ordinance is another amendment to the 1348 section of our code, which is our stormwater management regulations. This ordinance is to adopt the new stormwater manual. So the Department of Ecology comes out with a new manual every so many years, usually updating regulations that developments have to follow in terms of stormwater management. This newest manual came out in 2019 alongside of our permit. We haven't been required to adopt it until recently. So we are looking to adopt this new manual, which would carry along with it any new changes to development code. For, I guess, just information, the 2014 manual to the 2019 manual, most of the changes are more clerical. They're clarifications of the existing regulations. It doesn't add any new regulations to developments. The large change in 2014 manual was low impact development, which is just re-emphasized in the 2019 manual, but it's not a new requirement. So adopting this manual would help us meet our MPDS permit requirements. And I'd also be happy to answer any questions about this one.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion among council members? Seeing none. Any member of the public that would like to speak on this? Seeing none, we will move on to
Would you like me to call the roll?
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Thank you. Stewart,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Cole.
Yes.
Passes unanimous. All right. Ordinance number 2820, amending the 2021-2022 biennial budget. Councilmember Reed, would you like to make a motion?
Thank you, Mayor. I move we approve ordinance number 2820, amending the 2021-2022 biennial budget.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councilmember Potato. And I will call on Chief Financial Office Operating Officer Cassandra Raymond, and she is ready.
Good evening, everyone. So before you this evening is ordinance 2820. This is our second quarter 2022 amendment to the 2021-2022 biennial budget. This amendment before you accomplishes several things. In the general fund, we are adding an FTE in finance. This will assist in really providing some capacity for some staffing shortfalls that we have to address our operational needs. We're recognizing the grant revenue and the associated purchases in our police department for some equipment, a portable breathalyzer and a drone. We're providing for on-call development services. This is availability of funding to maintain our level of service when we need the additional backup for plan review. This supports our citywide SharePoint migration. This is our conversion to an online cloud solution to promote collaboration as well as cybersecurity. We're increasing our appropriations for our water supplies to meet increased needs, as well as doing some reallocations. We're reallocating an ARPA contribution for our town center utility WUNF project. This is moving from our sewer fund to our water fund. When we initially allocated, we weren't sure what that split was going to look like. Now that we have our construction bid, we know what that split looks like, so we're just truing up those funds. We're recognizing an awarded STP grant for the Wood and Main project of $1.33 million, which was fantastic news. And then that also gives us the ability to reallocate the City Council Strategic Fund contribution from Wood and Main to the Town Center Utility WUNF project and still maintain that funding. We have design activities for building and automated irrigation at our cemetery, along with recognizing some increased development funds in our cemetery. And then a carryover of some expenditures for a 24th Street utility relocation. These were funds that were appropriated in our 2019-2020 budget. They were unspent, so we are now just carrying them over into our current biennium. This amendment was reviewed by Finance Committee on June 1st and by study session on June 13th, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions or discussion for Cassandra? All right, I guess you're off the hook. Oh,
Thank you.
Kurt, did you have something? Nope. Okay. You're good. Thank you. Any member of the public that would like to speak to this item? Dial *9. Wave your hand. Seeing none. Any other questions? Okay, will the clerk please call the roll? That's hard to say.
Reed,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Cole,
Yes.
Newman. Councilmember Newman,
Yes.
Stewart,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, we got through all of those pretty good. So now we move on to reports. No?
There's one more item. The Town Center Utility.
Oh, no, I crossed it all off. We're not doing that tonight. All right, we're going to move to our last item, the Town Center Utility WUNF project, construction award contract. Councilmember Boteto, would you like to make a motion?
Of course. I'd like to make a motion authorizing the mayor and city administrator to execute all necessary contract documents with Reed Trucking and Excavating Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $7,195,490 for the town center utility and Wooner project CIP 19-05 and 20-08, substantially in a form approved by the city attorney.
Oof. Do I have a second? Councilmember Hochstetter. Deputy Mayor Hochstetter, it's read.
Yes, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded by Deputy Mayor Hochstetter. Okay, so do we have any discussion from Michael Kosa? Where are you, Michael?
Yes, here I am. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Michael Kosa, and the City of Sumner City Engineer. And today I have the pleasure to bring before you the CIP 19-05 and 20-08 Town Center Utility and Wooner Project Construction Contract Award. The Town Center Utility and Wooner project is a combination of the Alder Kincaid Utility Project and the Academy Street Bike Lanes Project. They were bid as one package. This contract provides for the replacement and upgrade of existing water mains and water services in Kincaid Avenue, Alder Avenue, Park Street, and Maple Street. Improvements also include the replacement of non-conforming curb ramps. They add some curb extensions and some additional storm drainage work. The project will also complete bicycle lanes on Academy Street between Wood Avenue and the Sumner Transit Center. This portion of the project, the bike lanes portion, is majority funded by a Sound Transit grant. The project will also complete roadway improvements adjacent to Heritage Park on Kincaid Avenue and Cherry Avenue, as well as improving the intersection there at Main Street. So that would be the Wooner project, part of the project that is the zero curb kind of plaza style street. 3 bids were received on May 19th of 2022 for this project. The lowest responsive bid was submitted by Reed Trucking and Excavating Incorporated with a bid amount of $6,541,360.63. With a 10% contingency, the total needed allocation is $7,195,490. The engineer's estimate for this project was $5,568,999.83. The contractor will have 150 days to complete the project, working days to complete the project, once given notice to proceed. Because the project exceeded the original budget, the budget amendment that was just passed was required to appropriate sufficient funds for the project. Public Works recommends you authorize the mayor to execute the agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councilmember Boteto.
When do you anticipate the project start?
I think that was very faint, but I think you asked about anticipated start date. Okay. We're anticipating sometime after July 4th, probably before July 15th. We'll confirm that in the coming days, but definitely early to mid-July is when we're planning to start. We're planning to wrap up sometime in midsummer next year at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any others? Councilmember Stewart.
Thank you, Mayor. Michael, thank you for the explanation. I'm swallowing hard when I see an engineer's estimate $1 million below low bid. Can you tell us what you or the staff does when there is such a discrepancy between those numbers?
Absolutely. Yeah, we look very carefully at the bid itself. It's, not just one number that we receive from the contractor. It's probably about 50 50 to 80 lines of unit prices that the contractor has bid. So it's really broken down, and we can really look into the different locations where they think where there might be discrepancies between what our estimate had and what their estimate had. And so when we've looked at that, the major discrepancies were in a lot of costs that were related to oil. We had higher asphalt costs than anticipated, and oil is a major component of that. We also had higher costs in concrete, which is another product that's influenced by gasoline prices, specifically with transporting concrete long distances to get to the site, as well as inflationary factors. Everyone is anticipating that, but we also noted there's been an increase in the cost of plastic pipe, also related to oil, and material shortages. And that's where we saw pretty significant increases was in our plastic electrical conduit specifically. So we can really look at all those and attribute a lot of the overages to inflation, and probably some raw material and oil costs that have been on the increase. Our estimate was completed back in March timeframe, and especially oil prices have made there's been a lot of movement since then. So it was unfortunate, but it's kind of the sign of the times. So we feel like it's the appropriate thing to move forward, and it seems like everything's getting so much more expensive these days. So
thank you for that explanation. I just have one quick question. When you see, and I understand that the price differences between then and now with oil and everything that you mentioned, do you ever consider looking into deductive alternates, so where we may not need to make it something so expensive and back down a little bit?
That's a good point. We really did see quite a jump in our electrical conduit prices, and we are planning to, after passing this, after awarding this contract, seeing what we can do to work with the contractor to maybe simplify something in the design, look for some alternative ways to save some funds where we did not anticipate it to be quite as expensive. Find some ways to find some cost savings that benefit both the city and the contractor. So we're hoping for some of that.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Hochstetter,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
thank you. Cole,
Yes.
Potato,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Stewart.
Yes.
This is unanimous. All right, nice work. Moving on to reports, Councilmember Reed.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have one short one. I wanted to congratulate all the middle school attendees for that have graduated 8th grade and that are moving into high school next year.
Yeah. Councilmember Hochstetter,
Nothing this evening. Thank you.
Councilmember Stewart,
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so glad summer is here.
fast one. Councilmember Potato.
Yeah, I have a couple things. On Saturday, I attended the Y dance recital that was held up at Bonnie Lake Pack. It was the first time I'd been up there. And there were probably about 300 students that put on maybe an hour and a half to 2 hour performance. And it was very fun, especially like the little kids, but it was also good to see the older students that have taken dance for many years and really show what they, can learn. So that was good. And then their summer camp is starting this week and it'll be running through the summer at the Y. So that's good to hear. And they have, I think, pretty well sold out, but I'm sure there's still openings for, people if you looking. And then this afternoon, I'm on the library fundraising committee. And so for the first time, our committee met in person. So after 2 years of meeting, met some people and, oh, that's who you are. It's not just a TV screen. And we walked over to the library side on Main Street. And, it's just pretty exciting to see that project's going to be going forward and really make a big impact on our community. So just can't wait to see things moving. So that's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Brown.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, Councilmember Newman.
I would like to thank the Downtown Association for putting on a fun block party with the music and games. I enjoyed my game of Yahtzee with the mayor. And anyway, so it was kind of great to see everyone be able to come out and all different types of families sort of enjoy the wide variety of food trucks. We haven't had quite that variety in Sumner for a long time, if ever. So that was a nice, enjoyable weekend. And I look forward to seeing the mayor and the city manager down south at the Association of Washington Cities conference as soon as you guys get here after your council meeting.
Councilmember Cole.
No report.
No report. All right. City Administrator Jason Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Coming up next week, we're going to hold a special council meeting right before the study session with the purpose of adopting the construction management contract award for the Town Center Utility Wooner project. This was originally on the agenda tonight, but we needed to change who that contract was being awarded to, and the Public Works Committee met today to bless that item and move it forward for your consideration. The timing of that is important. As you know, as Mr. Kosa just mentioned, we're ready to start that project, but this is a key component of getting that project underway. At the study session, we will be talking about the Comcast franchise agreement renewal, and then working on, again, to discuss the 2022 comprehensive plan amendments, focusing primarily on electronic reader board and digital message signage, as well as fuel stations. We'll wrap up the evening talking about budget. CFO Raymond will be here to talk about the budget calendar, and Communications Director Palmer will be talking about the community budget survey results. The full survey results are included in next week's study session packet, which will be distributed later this week. Happy to report that the July 5th meeting, which is a Tuesday, is canceled this year. So enjoy the 4th of July and the extra day off. Significant development activity. I wanted to touch on the 7-Eleven. So the applicant for the proposed 7-Eleven, this is at the corner of Valley and Main Street, notified the city late last week that they have chosen to withdraw their conditional use permit application, explaining that they are no longer under contract with the owner of the underlying property. The CUP application is what vested the project to the current code and development regulations. So moving forward, any future applicant who desires to develop that site would be subject to whatever code and use restrictions are in place at the time of that application. Lastly, I just want to remind everybody there's a cruising event this Saturday from 6 to 9 downtown. Lots of classic cars from the railroad tracks, essentially all the way to the area, the old QFC Averzano's parking lot. So lots of people come out for those, and it's always a good time. Happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Anybody have any questions? Patrick?
Thank you. So the 7-Eleven has withdrawn and they're no longer planning to build?
The 7-Eleven has withdrawn their conditional use permit application. So that means that they are no longer vested. It doesn't mean that somebody else couldn't apply under the current regulations, whatever they are at the time that they apply.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any others? No? All right. I
Thank
too went to the block party. Charlotte gave it away. We played Yahtzee. I did not win. But it was a great crowd, 9 food trucks. But the best part was I walked into all the businesses and they were booming. There was people in every single business. So it was nice to see people downtown and seeing all the businesses so busy. So have a good weekend and meeting adjourned. Saturday night.
And it starts.
They go from Aversanos to the end and back and back, back and back. The